How you doing, hedonists and hamburger horkers? Welcome back to Eater's Digest. What's in the news today? First things first, a big chef's kiss to litigious coffee drinkers. It has been a minute. This is Georgia woman wins $3 million settlements for hot coffee spill at Dunkin' in 2021 by Sarah Rumpf Witten. This Georgia woman won $3 million in a lawsuit because she got burned by hot coffee. The burns were so severe that the 70-year-old woman spent weeks in the burn unit. She still has to apply creams and ointments several times a day and cannot go out into the sun. The lawsuit was not centered around the temperature of the coffee. The lawsuit states that the lid was not properly attached to the cup, which led to the coffee spilling on the woman, causing burns on the thighs, groin, and abdomen. The firm representing the woman stated, "We hope this settlement sends a message to all restaurants and franchisees. This isn't complicated. Train your employees properly and prioritize customer safely." Obviously, this harkens back to Liebig versus McDonald's. That's when a 79-year-old woman received severe burns from spilled coffee, but that lawsuit was about the actual temperature of the coffee. This one's different because it's not about the temperature of the coffee. It is about the security of the lid. And I don't know if you were old enough when this happened, but this was a huge deal. Remember? Plasma getting big or Jesus getting smaller.
Fill a cup of coffee, make $1 million.
Sing it, Toby Keith. Anyway, the temperature that a liquid needs to be to cause burns can be as little as 140 degrees for a few seconds. And since coffee has to be served, according to the Specialty Coffee Association of America, between 160 and 180 degrees, that's like the standard for most fast food offerings, it's going to burn you if it touches you. So you can't really make the argument that coffee is too hot anymore. You really got to make the argument that the lid was not on right. And it seems to have worked for this unfortunately severely burned Georgia woman. John Morgan. Oh no, this was a Morgan & Morgan joint. How funny. This is interesting because a bunch of YouTubers have been getting sponsored by an injury accident firm called Morgan & Morgan, and they've been in my inbox tons of times. I've only had to ask Brie once, like, should I do this ad? She's like, absolutely not. Their whole thing is like, we don't get paid unless you win. It's like a no-risk accident law firm. So yeah, the franchisee is going to have to pay millions of dollars, and the person who's getting burned is going to have to give up a huge portion of the settlement winnings. John Morgan, the founder of Morgan & Morgan, says that he hopes that this settlement to restaurants to prioritize. Man, I'm so tired of articles being written poorly. One of the most famous lawsuits in American history centers around scalding coffee that caused severe burns, yet restaurants still have failed to learn their lesson to prioritize customer safety. Mr. Morgan must have just been salivating when this one came across his desk. Another big chef's kiss to Taco Tuesday. This is Taco Bell wins fight to free Taco Tuesday trademark by Kelly Tyco. So, despite the ubiquity of the phrase Taco Tuesday, the patent for that phrase was actually owned by New Jersey-based Gregory's Restaurant and Bar. I don't know if anybody knew this. Wyoming-based Taco John's also held a patent, but relinquished it in July. New Jersey and Wyoming, not exactly places that you think of good tacos, and yet they owned trademarks on the phrase Taco Tuesday. Taco Bell announced that the patent of the phrase has now been relinquished by both restaurants following a lawsuit filed by Taco Bell in May 2023. Taco Bell believes Taco Tuesday should belong to all who make, sell, eat, and celebrate tacos, which means Jessica Wilde is safe from a lawsuit. She used her ETB card.
She found her ETB card. And on a Taco Tuesday, she never left the car because she loved to celebrate Taco Tuesday. She liked the soft shell.
The soft shell. How about another big chef's kiss to the modern day A1 naming convention? I don't know if you remember this, but in like the phone book days, companies would call themselves A1 or ABC, like A1 dentist, ABC plumbing, so that they would be at the top of the list on the phone book for their category. And like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was talking in my Discord about whether or not this had any bearing on the rise of Best Pizza. I don't know if you've heard of Best Pizza New York. I think Frank Pinello is the owner of that, right? Where it's like, even if they didn't do that on purpose, surely it had some bearing. The idea of when somebody Googles Best Pizza NYC, that's got to have some bearing on your success. And as you can see by this image, this restaurant is called Thai Food Near Me. And it's just like the modern day version of A1 or ABC. This restaurant, Thai Food Near Me, capitalizes on Google search parameters, and in today's digital market, SEO is key to being able to drive customer traffic. Per Google documentation, their algorithm looks at 3 categories for ranking: relevance, distance, and prominence. Google actively encourages businesses to keep their websites or Google listings up to date with relevant data. However, Google also encourages users to add the "near me" phrase in their search inquiries, as it is a top autofilled search suggestion on both search and maps and has become synonymous with Google. It is not just Thai food near me that's taking advantage of this. There is a affordable dentist near me business in Texas, plumber near me. There is a phone repair near me in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and a psychic near me in Chicago. Although it kind of only works on a local level. You can't really do this if you're going to do it on a national brand. Another big, huge chef's kiss to fair food anthropology taking place in real time. This is a deep fried pho sparks scandal at the State Fair of Texas. The State Fair of Texas is widely known for its variety of deep fried goodness each year, pushing the boundaries of what can be battered and fried. Fried Oreos, fried Twinkies, those are all very famous. Fried butter, I feel like gets photographed a lot. And this year's finalists and winners included fried Biscoff cheesecake, fried bourbon banana sopapillas, cheesy crab tater bites, and the topic of today's news story, fried pho. Eat Krispies, run by Michelle Lay since 2011, won the savory category at the State Fair this year with deep fried pho. It's got all of the goodness of pho, thinly sliced beef and noodles wrapped up and fried like an egg roll. It retails for $24 at the fair. But controversy started to brew when the State Fair of Texas Instagram account ran a picture of the winner. People were making comparisons to the so-called Phorito provided by Dallas-based Chris and John, a Vietnamese restaurant with a Mexican twist, as stated on their website, which retails for $10 at their restaurant. Chris and John, that's these guys on the right, who are the original makers, have never participated in the State Fair of Texas, but were asked to provide a tasting by State Fair representative. According to Chris and John co-owner Christina Mendez, they were approached by Miss Lay herself, Michelle Lay, the person who won the deep fried pho competition, to collaborate on a menu for the State Fair, but never heard back. Miss Lay has also been tagged on Instagram by a family member concerning Chris and John. Miss Lay states that she has never seen the Phorito in person or tasted it. That doesn't mean that she never saw it online, and had approached many restaurants concerning collaborations, not just Chris and John. She states that the deep fried pho discussions started in 2011 with her husband, based on the recipe, a family recipe. The senior VP of PR for the State Fair of Texas denies any sort of collusion or plagiarizing on Miss Lay's part. Miss Menendez and Mr. John Pham themselves were inspired by a similar dish at a restaurant in Komodo in Los Angeles. So they're not too salty about it. Despite controversy, they are quoted as being happy that a Vietnamese dish is receiving the credit. That's the end of the story. I think this is kind of a good outcome. Like, the Phorito on the left is the one that won all the accolades and got all the attention. But now, whenever anybody talks about it or posts about it to Instagram, the commentors are talking about Chris and John instead, saying you stole this from Chris and John, which is like, even if you're just like, nah, they can have it. Free advertising. Pretty nice. Here's the deal. There's been a lot of chef's kisses today, but a big fat 86 is going on the idea that Ozempic will take down junk food brands. This is Cremieux on Twitter that says the idea that Ozempic is going to hurt fast food companies may seem absurd, but it's more plausible than it at first seems. The reason is that a few customers do the majority of the consuming. If they cut back, what then? Consider these Pareto ratios, how much the top 20% consume. And so this shows like, okay, the people who buy cigarettes, it's really just the few of the top who are buying a bunch of cigarettes. The same goes for light beer, low-calorie diet sodas, wine, water. That's not very compelling. Detergents, way down here. Supplements. I keep seeing this sentiment come up that like as soon as Ozempic, as soon as everybody's on it, it's time to short Mondelez, it's time to short Oreo. It's just never, all these companies are going down. And yet I keep seeing these articles, like that's on the consumer facing side. But then I look at Food Business News where like people who are actually in the industry are chatting, and it's like Coca-Cola, very focused on impact of weight loss drugs. Nestle products may complement GLP-1 weight loss drugs, and Mondelez sees strong demand despite inflation. But let's just do a little editorializing here. The increasing use of GLP-1 agonists drugs for type 2 diabetes and weight loss could present opportunities for Nestle SA. This is by Jeff Gelsky. I believe we have important contributions to make, says Ulf-Mark Schneider, Chief Executive Officer, in an October 19th earnings call to discuss financial results for the year's first 9 months. Please note, while these drugs offer new therapy options for obese patients and patients with type 2 diabetes, they are not a permanent solution and are no replacements for an appropriate diet coupled with the right amount of exercise. For the first time, he gave Boost nutritional drinks and Optifast products as two examples of potentially assisting customers on GLP-1 drugs. So that's the thing, like these companies like Mondelez, Nestle, whoever owns, there's like 4 companies that own all the foods. And it's not like they're just going to be like, oh no, we're out of Oreos. We can't sell Oreos anymore. We're screwed. They also sell Boost and Ensure and all the things that complement a new lifestyle or a new way of living. So I have issue to take with the idea that like the big cheap food corporations are going down because we found a way to beat them. Then we go back to giving more chef's kisses, this time to the secondhand reservation market. May we all be sneakerheads of a different flavor. We've talked about this a couple times now on this show, trying to secure a reservation at top restaurants. It's becoming a lot like Ticketmaster. We have a restaurant called Bacanora here in Phoenix, and it made a bunch of top new restaurant lists like 1 or 2 years ago, and they sell all of their reservations for the month on the first of the month, and those are sold out within minutes. Like certain restaurants you just can't get into anymore. Now there's websites, like there's one called Appointment Trader, and it allows customers to log in and bid for reservation times, some people paying up to $125. The owners of these establishments believe that bots are behind this new trend, going in and securing reservations within milliseconds of them being opened. Spotting these types of bot-generated reservations tend to have similar profiles. 1. Reservations connected to invalid email addresses or disconnected phone numbers. 2. Back-to-back reservations at prime times, such as Friday and Saturday night for several weeks at a time. 3. Invalid credit cards. These restaurants lose out on revenue when bot reservations are canceled due to the lack of customer traffic and invalid credit card for cancellation fees. I don't really feel like that's much of a problem if your restaurant is legitimately busy because the cancellations aren't happening. People are willing to pay each other $125 to trade their reservations. Alternative workarounds include prepaid spending on reservations, members-only style apps, and sites that allow to give away, claim, or even trade reservations. It really just seems to be another story of restaurants turning to startups and tech-enabled new services and venture funding-backed SaaS products to solve problems, only to find that they make things much, much worse. Okay, finally, one big last chef's kiss to probiotic drinks. Sales soar for soft drinks that contain probiotic drinks. Probiotic drinks are getting more popular. That's not really the meat of the story, but the complications that arise from probiotic drinks becoming more popular is kind of fascinating to me, especially because so many of these products are like beloved by influencers. And so if you have a social media post advertising a product with probiotics, you can get in trouble for doing the wrong stuff because it's kind of like a halfway medical product. The quickest way to turn around an otherwise compliant post into a non-compliant post is by adding a hashtag, says Asa Waldstein, principal of the Supplement Advisory Group, giving hashtag inflammatory bowel disease as an example. Liking a post or adding a smiley face emoji may draw attention too. You've turned that into labeling, says Mr. Waldstein. You've turned that into a piece of marketing. Kind of interesting, but the real story here is that there is a mushroom extract that prevents kombucha from fermenting. And I'm going to be watching this because I find this very fascinating. Kombucha is very difficult to sell. It's like a supply chain nightmare because when you make your own kombucha at home, it sort of stops fermenting once you put it in the fridge. It doesn't truly stop, it just slows down significantly. And so it stops producing so much carbon dioxide. It stops becoming more and more alcoholic, more and more acidic as those bacteria and yeast start eating whatever sugar is left. But kombucha is becoming more and more popular, and I feel like GT Dave's has just a stranglehold on the industry because of how long they've been in the market. And so I imagine it's very hard for a new kombucha company to try to distribute kombucha. And I've seen new kombucha companies come out where It's no longer a probiotic. Like, it's shelf stable. It's not even refrigerated. It's just dead. It's pasteurized. There's also another problem, which is if you leave your kombucha out for too long, not even out, but leave it refrigerated for too long, those bacteria and yeast might eat the sugar in the beverage and convert it into alcohol. And so once you get over, what is it? I think 2.5%, it becomes alcoholic and you have to have an ID. No, okay, 0.5%. Commercially produced kombucha must not contain more than 0.5 alcohol by volume, or else it can be considered an alcoholic beverage. And there are some alcoholic kombuchas like June Shine where they do this on purpose, where it's like 5% ABV. But if you're trying not to have that happen, it can be really hard to make it stop because you have to just sell it at the perfect time. But there's a new thing here. Chinova Bioworks tested the antimicrobial activity of Kyber mushroom fiber extract in alcoholic kombucha in an antimicrobial challenge test where spoilage-causing alcohol-producing microorganisms are introduced at a high concentration and their population is measured over time to determine how well the antimicrobial ingredient is performing. And it does pretty well, and you're like, hold on, antimicrobial stuff in your kombucha, isn't that defeating the purpose? No, it leaves the probiotics alive. Pretty cool. It just kills the part that starts to like ferment and make alcohol. The use of natural Kyber mushroom fiber extract at 0.2% concentration has been shown to significantly increase the shelf life of beverages and provides much needed security from cases of continued fermentation due to yeast. This is the kind of stuff that you should be trying to put in your beverages instead of brominated vegetable oil. Although like 20 years from now, we'll find out that Kyber is poisonous.